Hi, I'm Valerie Espinoza, your Public Regulation Commissioner, and I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of our program. Today we have a very special guest who has been newly appointed by the Governor to the position of the 1st Judicial District Court, correct?
That's correct, Division 2.
Very good. So welcome, Greg Shaffer. I guess we should call him Honorable Shaffer instead of, from how I know him, as Greg Shaffer, so I'll be a little more respectful. How's that?
Well, I appreciate it. I'll always be Greg to you, but thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank you for reaching out and congratulate you at the same time for getting this position. This process, you know, isn't easy. You have to interview, and maybe you can start by telling us what that was like, and then tell us about yourself, and I'm going to ask you then the next question all at once. And what has it been like since November 6th, since you took over? So with all that ought to keep you busy.
Okay, so the process, I was appointed to fill a vacancy created by the retirement of Judge Sarah Singleton. And whenever there's a vacancy on the district court, everybody who meets the minimum constitutional qualifications can apply. They're vetted by an independent commission, and that commission is made up of judges, lawyers, and non-lawyers. There are 8 Democrats and 8 Republicans, plus the dean of the UNM Law School. That commission vets the candidates, and they make a decision as to who they feel is qualified for the position. And they pass that list of qualified names on to the governor, and the governor then has to pick from that list. So in my case, I was one of 8 Democrats that applied to the commission. I was one of 4 that was recommended to the governor, and the governor appointed me from that list of qualified Democrats.
Outstanding.
So that's how it came to be that I was appointed to the position. And, you know, the governor has a track record of appointing good Democratic judges in the 1st Judicial District.
Well, I can vouch for that because she, too, appointed Doug Howe in the position that I'm in now. And so he's just astute as they come, so. So I was honored to be able to, again, assume the duties of the judgeship on November 6th. So I've been in that position now for 2 weeks. In terms of telling you a little bit about myself, I think there were 3 parts to that question. Yes,
I'll try and take them in order. You know, I was born and raised in Western Pennsylvania. I was raised by a widowed mom along with my 4 siblings. You know, she's the one who really instilled in me both a sense of responsibility as well as a work ethic. You know, she never shirked the responsibilities of being a mom, and she worked hard, you know, frankly, every day in order to provide for us and you know, my 4 siblings. So it's that responsibility as well as that work ethic that has really defined a lot of my career. All the opportunities that, you know, I've obtained at Penn State, at NYU Law, and now here at in New Mexico as a public servant, has really been on merit and based upon hard work, and that's why I'm in the position I am now, being able to serve in the capacity that I'm being able to serve in. You know, relative to the first 2 weeks, it's been you know, a steep learning curve, as you would expect. The first day you go into office, you get a spreadsheet, and it's like, here's your 1,200 cases.
1,200, I'm
1,200
sure.
on the civil docket for Division 2. So it's a learning experience. I'm learning a lot every day. Mercifully, you know, the other judges on the 1st Judicial District have been really receptive and really helpful.
Who are the other judges there? To give us all an idea of what position you ended up with.
Sure. So the way that the 1st Judicial District is, it's divided into divisions. And so you have judges who primarily do civil work, such as myself, judges who primarily do criminal work, and those would be Judge Glenn Ellington, Judge Mary Marlowe Summer, and on the civil side you have myself as well as Judge David Thompson, Frank Matthew,
I see.
Raymond Ortiz.
So you're playing in the big leagues.
You know, a lot of you know, distinguished public servants.
Absolutely.
And who have dedicated, you know, their career to serving the community. So I'm honored to be in their company.
I couldn't agree with you more.
With Rio Arriba County, you have Judge Jennifer Attrip. She handles both civil as well as criminal. And then on the domestic side of things, you have Matthew Wilson and Sylvia Lamar. So I think I've got them all. If I left anybody out, I apologize.
Very good.
But I think that in the first 2 weeks in office, again, it's been learning a lot. But what it's really reinforced to me are two things. Number one, it's how important each case is to the parties. And again, the people that are appearing in front of you are there for a variety of reasons, but at the end of the day, they're trying to use the judicial process to resolve some sort of dispute. And I think, again, seeing the people that appear in front of me, whether it's an eviction proceeding, whether it's an effort to collect taxes, what have you, again, it matters, very personally to all of the people that appear in front of you. And I think that that's something that I have a renewed appreciation for. Now, by design, if I'm being asked to make a decision, I'm going to disappoint 50% of the people.
That's right.
And
that happens.
That happens
in every job.
And so, for me, I've really tried to focus on, well, I can't make everybody happy, and I'm not there to make everybody happy, but what I can really do is make sure that people feel that they were respected and that they were listened to and that they were treated fairly in the sense of how the proceedings go, even if at the end of the day, I can't rule in their favor. And so I've really tried to focus on that, again, to ensure that the litigants that appear in front of me do feel as if they've been listened to and treated with respect. So that's one thing. The second thing, I think, again, as I alluded to, getting the spreadsheet with your list of 1,200
right.
cases.
How do you manage that?
Is, learning how to manage that, but also it just underscored how critically important that you get somebody in those positions that has a passion for serving the community and has a passion to do the work, and has, frankly, the work ethic to see it through, because this is not an honorific position. And it's nice to have people, treat you with respect, what have you, but it's a job, and it's a hard one at that.
Well, you obviously have the work ethic, because going back to the county, and then we'll go there after we have this discussion, but, I remember you well, and you were always very distinguished, very professional, always stuck to the legwork and to what you had to do to present before the commission and prepare. So you were always very solid, very, disciplined. That's the way I remember you.
Well, and I very much appreciate those kind words. And maybe for those who might not know how we overlapped, Commissioner was the Santa Fe County Clerk during my first stint at Santa Fe County. It was actually my very first job in New Mexico, and my first opportunity to serve the community was as an assistant county attorney.
That's right,
and
with
so
Steve, was it Steve Ross?
That's correct, that's correct. So I'll be forever indebted to him and to Gerald Gonzalez, who was the county manager at the time, who gave me that opportunity.
Outstanding.
And I think that if I could, is it's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate and committed about the community, is that Santa Fe County and the state of New Mexico has been incredibly welcoming to me. I mean, I've never been denied an opportunity because I'm not from here originally, or because of my ethnicity, or any other factor.
It's too bad that some people take that into consideration. Where you came from, you weren't born and raised here, or, it seems to be such a factor these days in some of these races. It doesn't bother me in the least.
Well, and I hope that it doesn't bother others in this race. And like I said, the reason I feel such a strong connection to the community is because the community has welcomed me. I mean, people haven't asked me any of those things. They've asked, well, do you care about the community? Are you committed to trying to make it better? Do you have the skills and the capacity to do the job, and are you willing to roll up your sleeves and get it done? And that's been my experience. And like I said, I've always appreciated how welcoming the community has been to me and the opportunities that it's provided to me to serve.
Well, I can certainly respect what you're saying, because the skills are crucial and critical. The experience, the the ethics that you've been talking about, and the transparency. You just have to, be willing, and that's what's important to the voters, I think. That's what they're looking for today, is somebody who's ethical, somebody who's transparent, and somebody who just, does the job and wants to do the job and is willing to help the public and, your constituent base.
And it is, and it's a very wide and diverse constituent base.
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about where this position, I mean, you're going to have to run for office in Rio Arriba, Santa Fe.
And Los Alamos counties.
And Los Alamos. We can't forget Los Alamos. I was there 20 years. And yes, it's not easy running for office, as you know.
Well, I was trying to give it context to my son the other day, and I said, the area that I serve, and Rio Arriba County, Judge Attrip is primarily there, but every judge has cases from Rio Arriba County due to excusals or conflicts or what have you. But the area that we serve, the First Judicial District, I explained to him, it's several times bigger than the state of Delaware in terms of its geographic
I
scope.
want to agree with you, because in my position, I'm in District 3, and I believe that my district is huge compared to the other districts. I don't care what anyone says. I know they're equally proportioned, but mine is like yours, diverse. I mean, we're in Los Alamos, Santa Fe, Rio Arriba, I've got Rio Rancho, I've got the Pueblos, I've got, it's crazy, and it's stretched out so far. It keeps me very busy. So,
well, and not just the geographic scope, but it's such a diverse place, both within counties as well as between counties. Obviously, the different parts of Santa Fe County have different issues and have different needs than other parts of the county. And I think that my service, both as an assistant county attorney and then most recently as Santa Fe County attorney, has really positioned me well to understand a lot of the issues that are confronting the community. And in addition, as I now start the effort to campaign in all 3 counties, I'm learning more and more about the different issues that are facing those counties as well. And and there's a lot of overlap. I mean, as one thing that I knew from my time at the county is just the very large behavioral health and drug addiction problem that is really facing our community in terms of the folks that need resources and maybe aren't getting the resources they need and end up in the county jails, what have you. And I recently attended an opioid roundtable discussion held in Espanola, moderated by Congressman Lujan, and it was it showed you both some of the challenges that our communities are facing, but also some of the resiliency and frankly community strength that is there in terms of people coming together to try and fight that problem and think about solutions to it. And again, it crosses county boundaries, and it crosses communities. At that event I'm describing, not only did you have the congressman there, you had the chairman of the Rio Arriba Board of County Commissioners, Alex Naranjo, as well as a county commissioner, Anna Hansen, who was there as well. And so that's been like I said, both a learning experience, but also very refreshing to see the solidarity and strength of the community and its elected officials coming together to try and confront some really serious issues.
Well, I'm glad you're concerned about that, because it's an ongoing problem in not only New Mexico, but northern New Mexico especially. And as you brainstorm on how to come up with solutions, it's a sad process. I know many families that have been affected by the loss of a loved one because of the heroin problem, and it hits home. I'm from northern New Mexico. I'm from Rio Arriba, so the families and the kids and the grandkids that get involved, and so it's not just there, it's everywhere. And so it's good to see that you're contributing to the cause and trying to come up with solutions and understand that that is a problem. And so when these people end up in court, it's a sad thing. Once you're in the system, you're in the system, and those are things to take into consideration, because you've got to have compassion at the same time, and that's what people look for in a candidate, I think. So, and then another thing that was really intriguing to me that you and I were talking about one day, and that was the process. You can't, when you run for office, you can't know who contributes to your campaign. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people want to give you a check, or they ask you about public financing. What is the process if somebody would want to give to one of the candidates running for your position?
Well, so after you're appointed, just to explain to the audience how it works, is that as a judge you have to run in one partisan election cycle. So you have to go through a primary election as well as then a general election.
After you get appointed.
After you get appointed. And again, all comers are welcome, as is their right to seek that position.
So is it based on retention after?
After you're elected to that one partisan cycle, after that it is just retention. So what you see on the ballot are the questions: shall we retain, or shall Judge so-and-so be retained? And it's a yes or no. As an aside, that's why I try to emphasize to people how important these races are. because not only are the positions critical in what what the judges are being elected to do, and the cases they get to decide have statewide importance in the civil division because we're at the seat of government, we're at the state capitol, but you're likely going to be with this judge for a long time because judges are typically retained. And so for better or for worse, the judge you choose in June is likely going to be the judge that you have for, as long as they want the position. It's not as if you can run another candidate against them in 4 years. Again, it's that yes or no vote. And again, in my experience, judges typically are retained. So relative to the process, a lot of the actual lifting in terms of getting donations, getting public support, et cetera, is done by a campaign committee. And so, there's a committee of, friends, colleagues. Frankly, the biggest member is my wife, who is working hard to do those elements of the campaigning that I
What's your wife's name? Who should we look out for out in the trail?
Jessica Beth Cooper. So the thing I tell people, the great thing about being courted by a judge, right, is that I can come, I can talk to you about myself, I can talk about the race, I can talk about why I think I'm the best person for the job, but I can't ask you for anything, other than generally to support me, and that I hope I can count on, again, that on your support in a general way. But I can't ask, for you to publicly endorse me. I can't ask, to donate any money. And so what I tell people is that it's the best of both worlds, because we can have a perfectly pleasant conversation, everything seems to be going really well, and then I leave and a member of my campaign committee calls you and you can say, there is no way on earth that I would ever vote for that person or support him, and I'll never know that. And that's the way it should be, because again, I'm a judge, I'm supposed to be impartial and unbiased, so I should not know who is supporting me, who's donating to my campaign, or who is supporting or donating to the campaign of others. Now, I've taken that somewhat even to an extreme. I won't even, put a nominating petition in front of you and ask you to sign it, because I think that puts you in a tough spot. Because, again, I'm a judge, and you may be thinking... Oh, you are
the judge now, that's right.
You may be thinking, well, wait, if I'm in front of him, is he going to remember if I sign or not?
Good for you.
And so, again, I've been trying to be really conscientious about it. And, I ran that past my 12-year-old daughter, who, is smarter than me in a lot of respects. And I asked her, I said, well, how would you feel about this if you were a citizen and you could vote, and I came up as a judge and I asked you to sign a nominating petition? And she said, if you're a judge or a candidate, she said, that wouldn't make me feel so comfortable, because I would think that you're going to remember that, and that you might hold that against me or in favor of me if I was in your courtroom. So it didn't pass the Willow smell test, and as a consequence, that's not the way we're running the race.
I used to have Denise Lamb pass. She and I would do the smell test every morning and have a lesson of the day. So you remember Denise Lamb?
Yes, I do.
Shirley Hooper. Anyhow, so the next question I want to know is, why do you want to be a judge?
For me, it's a confluence of the public service opportunity that it presents, and the fact that I think I'm well positioned to serve in it. So as we've been talking about, when we moved to New Mexico, I really wanted to dedicate my career to public service, because I think there's a real need there. There's no shortage of lawyers who want to work in private practice and get paid for doing so, but there's a real shortage, or I guess not as an abundant of supply, of people who want to serve the government and the public. And so I've been doing that in a variety of different ways since we moved to New Mexico, and as alluded to, been really afforded a welcoming opportunity to do so. And these positions, they're just critically important. I mean, a district court judge is a trial court of general jurisdiction. I'll just start at the highest level and work down, is that you pick up the paper and you read about different cases involving the federal government or state government. If you don't have a strong, competent judiciary, you can't have a strong, competent democracy. If you don't have a strong, competent judiciary, you can't really have a strong society. And so the positions are absolute critical importance. For Division II in the 1st Judicial District or the other civil divisions, again, because we do sit at the state capitol, cases of statewide importance get decided here. And so whether you're ever a litigant in the courtroom at the 1st Judicial District, there will be cases that are decided there that actually impact your life, impact the state. So the challenge to whether or not the state is providing adequate funding for public schools. That was tried here this past summer in the 1st Judicial District by my predecessor, Sarah Singleton. You know, it's still a case that she's handling through rendering a decision. The issue of whether or not you can use public funds to buy textbooks for kids who are going to private schools, that originated here as well. Whether or not a county can impose a gross receipts tax within city limits, again, those issues were decided here. Point is, again, that it's a really critical job because of the issues that get to be decided here. And then again, just on the individual level, when you're just really resolving private disputes, and I don't mean just in a pejorative sense, but it's just a dispute amongst private parties, it's really very important to those litigants. So it's a profound opportunity to serve the community, and again, I think it's one that my background particularly makes me well suited for. Division 2, as I've indicated several times, is a civil docket. So it's not a criminal docket. I'm not going to hear a lot of criminal cases. These are disputes among private citizens, disputes between governmental entities, disputes between private citizens and the government. And so my experience, again, is in civil law, both in private practice as a litigation attorney, and then also now as a public servant in New Mexico. I've been doing civil law. It leaves me really well positioned because, especially as Santa Fe County attorney, there's as you know, a tremendous variety sitting through the Board of County Commissioners meetings, tremendous variety of issues that you need to be able to quickly pivot to and from and really get up to speed quickly on to understand what the issues are.
There's election issues that you helped us with too.
Exactly, election issues, jail issues, land use issues, water rights. Some of the things that we've worked on most recently, like the Amet settlement, that's right, as well as some issues surrounding legal access to residents in the Pewaukee Valley area who live within Pueblo, the exterior boundaries of the Pueblos. So a lot of those issues, and again, the point is you really have to be a quick study, willing to do the hard work to get up to speed on it, and I think that is at the essence of what these jobs are. I think also, I'm kind of at a sweet spot in my career because I've been an attorney for 20 years. It's hard to believe, but I still, think I have at least a decade to, 15 years of my prime left. I agree with you.
We have a lot of time to work.
So I think that's why I want to be a judge, is that it's really important position for the community. It provides the person who's honored to hold that position the opportunity to serve in a real meaningful way, both the community at large as well as the individual litigants. And again, I think that I'm well suited to serve honorably and capably in that capacity.
How interesting! It's very. I mean, to hear you say this, it warms a person's heart because you really do have the experience and the knowledge related to the job, and that's always important to the voters. And with that, what general advice do you have for the voters that would be evaluating a candidate like yourself?
My general advice is this: is treat it like the job interview that it is. I've gone over why it's such an important position, from again it resolving private disputes, and if and instilling appreciation for the rule of law and how we go about resolving disputes, to the larger issues that get to be decided by the court. It's an important job. It's one that really it's just the judge. I mean, at the state district court level, there are no law clerks. There's no one else helping the judge really do the work. So it's just you and
you have you do your own. You pull out
research,
the statutes.
Reading, what have you, and so you have a very important staff. Don't get me wrong, a part-time bailiff as well as a trial court administrative assistant, and they are critical to the functioning of the court, and I'm not minimizing their contributions at all. But in terms of actually deciding the cases, it is just the judge that you are in fact selecting. So again, the position is important. You're really electing one person to discharge it. And then finally, as we talked about, you're likely going to have this judge for a while. So my point is to the electorate, it's really important, and it's not a high-profile race. It's one, though, that you should really pay a lot of attention to. Treat it like, again, you are interviewing people for a job and you're seeing whether they should be entrusted with it. Someone comes and asks you for your support, ask the tough questions. Ask the questions that are on your mind about them. Ask them about their background. Ask them about, again, their education. Whatever it is that's important to you, ask the question. But go a step further, which is just like if you were hiring someone for a job, you would reach out to their references, right? You would reach out to people who've worked with them, who have known them in different capacities. And so what I've encouraged people to do is pick up the phone, make a call. You know, everybody knows a lawyer, or anybody knows someone that may have worked with them. Find their colleagues.
Well, you know everybody, because everybody that I know that has worked either at the county or even some of the folks I work with now, some of the attorneys just hold you in highest regards. We've got Judith, we've got who in the world, who called me?
Rick
Blumenfeld. So yeah, there's, you know, that's a good way to go about it. Ask for check out to see who this guy is, what kind of reputation he has, and you know, it's very credible.
Well, and for the people in you know, Santa Fe County today, I tell people, you know, and you know who I've been working for the last 3.5 years. You each have a county commissioner, as well as former county commissioners that I've worked for. So pick up the phone and call them and ask them, what's this Shaffer guy about? What does he bring to the table? And you know, what's your perspective on what he'll do as a judge? And that's really it. Is again, I'm encouraging people to treat it like a job interview and do the due diligence and ask the tough questions, both of the candidate, but also, you know, call those references and call people that you know who might have worked with them or know somebody that has worked with them, and really see what they're about, because again, the jobs are that important and it should be treated that way.
I couldn't agree with you more. We only have a couple minutes left, but I would ask you the question, I mean, if you get elected, you're going to be representing both Democrats and Republicans, but what are you running as a Democrat?
I am, and in fact, you know, I'm not a Gregory come lately to the Democratic Party. I've been a lifelong Democrat, been a registered Democrat the entire time that we've lived in New Mexico. So I am running as a Democrat, but you're absolutely right. You know, once, you know, and even now, it doesn't matter. As a judge, you know, party affiliation, again, everybody who comes in front of the court, you know, should be treated, you know, equally. And so that is irrelevant to how I do my job. It just so happens that the process is set up such that you have to run in one partisan election cycle, and that's where, you know, your party affiliation is relevant, and hopefully that's the only time it's relevant, because thereafter it should just be about doing the job, treating all people fairly, and again, upholding, you know, the law as enacted by the legislature and the people.
Well, you've passed your interview, and I would ask you just a couple more questions before we wrap up, and that is, what have you learned in the last 2 weeks that you've been serving?
You know, as I said, I think that the two things that really stick out to me is just how important each case is to the people that are involved there. And, you know, whatever the dispute is on the civil side, and also it's the same with the criminal, but different issues, is that you are dealing with parties that have a dispute of some sort that is personal to them. You know, even if it's business, if it's malpractice action, somebody was injured, what have you, is that it's personal to everybody involved. And, you know, whether, again, someone feels as if they were injured and wronged, and you might have a doctor or someone else on the other side that feels that they didn't do anything wrong. Again, that you have very personal disputes and issues that come in front of you, and they each need to be treated very carefully, you know, compassionately and with respect. And so I think that, like I said, is something that's really been brought home to me even more so. I knew that from the county, and you know, as being a county elected official, the issues that, you know, are at the, you know, ground level, if you will, of people's lives, there's a lot of passion there, and it's personal, it's not abstract. And again, you see that everybody is professional and everybody is civilized thus far in my courtroom, but still you can see that these are significant issues that impacted their lives personally. And I think as a judge, you always have to be mindful of that when that you are dealing with, you know, with human beings. While you're dealing with legal issues, you do have to have that compassion and that empathy to make sure that they feel that they were listened to. I think that that's a critical takeaway. And then again, I just, you know, really you know, underscore to people that, you know, this is a job, and that's what it is. Is it, you know, there's a crushing amount of things and issues that need to be decided, and that you need a judge that is really willing to work hard and doesn't have any sense of entitlement, or that, hey, I've made it now.
Right, yeah.
I don't have to work hard anymore. I'm glad you
said that, because once you do make it, some people, they just forget all about you and forget all the help you ever gave them. And are you going to be like that?
You know, I'm not. And, you know, as a judge, the thing is, you know, there's really a disconnect between, you know, the characteristics we want to have in a judge and the characteristics we might want to see in a candidate, right? You know, it's because, you know, you want a candidate who's really out there, who's accessible, who's talking to people, who wants to understand what's going on. As a judge, you want the complete opposite. You know, you really want a hermit. You want somebody who lives under a rock, who doesn't have any external influences, who is only hearing the cases that come before them based upon the evidence that's in front of them and based upon the law that's in front of them. So I guess my point is that, you know, once you are a judge and you go through a partisan election cycle, the rules are such that you do have to take a step back. You know, you can't attend political events if you're not running in a partisan election. You can't take a phone call from
your friends anymore.
Exactly. You can't take a phone call saying, hey, you know, I wanted you to know that, you know, Commissioner Espinoza is a really good person. You know, you ought to think highly of her in this case. You're really walled off from all of that. So I don't want to mislead people to think that things don't change, because they do. And they're designed to change. And again, that's really to
keep the separation.
That there's a separation. It's a very good choice of words, and that you're impartial.
No ex parte communications.
No ex parte communications. That's right. But in terms of you know, my work ethic and the fact I'm not going to mail it in. And, you know, I had the pleasure to meet with the Chamber of Commerce in Chama earlier this week. And so I was talking to, you know, to local business owners. And what I told them is that, you know, you own a business, you know, there are people that work hard because that's who they are. And then there are people that do not. Because, again, they feel that they're entitled to something, what have you. And my background is such that, again, I'm a worker. I always have been. That's how I've got where I am, and that's how I'm going to stay where I am.
And let me just tell you one last thing. Keep working hard with that ethical behavior keeps you young. So that's my advice. Just keep working hard. And I want to thank you for being here. That time flew, and you're always welcome back here. Best of luck to you and all the other candidates that are running. I want to thank you for watching our program. If you would like to appear, please give me a call at 827-4533. Thank you for watching.